Hello everyone, welcome to Splunk UF to Cribl tutorial. This one was created due to popular demand. So today we're going to learn how to configure Splunk Enterprise Universal Forwarder on Ubuntu so that it sends data to Cribl stream workers that are in Docker with the NGINX network load balancer in front of that for free. All right, step one is to complete the following prerequisite, which is where we created a distributed stream environment on Ubuntu with an NGINX load balancer that could send to Cribl stream workers. Here's the YouTube link for it. I'll put that in the description as well. If you take care of that before you get started, then step two can be making sure the environment's up and running. So the way I do that is you just use my Docker desktop. And over here on the right hand side, you can see that it's up and running. The entire environment, the Cribl with NGINX, network load balancer, etc. It's all there, ready to use from the previous videos and tutorials that we covered in step one. So if you haven't completed step one, go ahead and do that and get to this point, right? And by the way, you can also do this in command line. You don't have to use Docker desktop. I know some people are command line junkies, if you want to call them that. I don't want to be derogatory. I like command line myself. I am not a junkie, although I do find myself preferring command line quite often to not. Anyways, it's easier in the tutorials just to show you the UI over there on the right side. But in case you want to, that command is docker ps. So it shows you all the containers up and running, just like you see over there in Docker desktop. All right, so then step three is going to be forget about NGINX. So I know I made that a prerequisite here. And really what we needed was the entire environment going. NGINX can be stopped if you want to stop it. We don't need it for this tutorial. But if you have it running just from the prerequisite, then just leave it going. And the reason we're going to do that is the agent, the Splunk Universal Forwarder itself, will use software load balancing. So this integration will not require a load balancer in front of it. In fact, that may cause more problems than it would prevent. So we're just going to let the Universal Forwarder do its thing. We're going to send it directly to the Cribl worker nodes. So before we do that, we need to enable the Splunk TCP input on our worker nodes. We haven't done that yet. So real quick, we'll jump over to the Cribl Stream Leader Nodes management UI here. Get logged in there. Once we get logged in, we're going to go to Manager or Manage, I'm sorry, Default Worker Group. I'll show you that real quick. I'm just going to paste it in here first. Manage Default Worker Group, Data Sources, Splunk TCP. So again, Manage next to Stream. Default Worker Group up there at the top. Go to Data at the top and Sources. Type in Splunk TCP. It's probably the quickest way to find it. And there we go. We'll click on Splunk TCP. All right. So first you'll notice it's not enabled. It's grayed out. That's the first thing we want to do is enable that. We'll be asked if we want to do that. Yes, we do. Okay, great. That's enabled. But we need to go into the advanced settings and configure this to work with the latest universal forwarders. I'll show you how you do that, but basically all we've done right now is we've enabled it. Okay, perfect. Now we want to make it compatible with newer versions of the Splunk Universal Forwarder. We're going to do that because we'll install the latest version of the Universal Forwarder. And we want to be sure we can get our data to Cribl. So the way you do that is you click on the in Splunk TCP connection, you go to advanced settings and you set the max S2S version to version 4. You don't make any other changes, you save it. You know, you might have noticed it popped up a thing about using the Universal Forwarder's timestamp and it automatically enabled that. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so you just basically change the max S2S version to 4 and let the rest fly. Just, you know, don't do any changes to them. Let them roll. Right, however you want to say it, right? No changes to that, just save. So all we've done is change max S2S version to 4. Once we've done that, we need to commit this and deploy it so our worker nodes reload with the configuration. We've got to add a commit message, something that makes sense that others will understand. So we enabled Splunk TCP/in. Makes sense. Takes my environment just a little bit to allow me to commit that. It's doing a diff between the uh, running memory version and what's on disk, things like that. And it's in the virtual environment. So this kind of spins a little bit, but pretty quick to get the commit and deploy button in this demo at least. So that's great. We'll go ahead and click on that. And while that's deploying, we'll move on to step 5. Now, step 5 is going to be logging into the Ubuntu container. We'll just make that the step here. It'll be real quick and easy. So in Windows, again, you can go start, run cmd. In my case, I already had that command prompt running from earlier where I showed you Docker ps command. I'll just grab that window real quick. And now we'll run docker exec command. This one we used in the last tutorial to get into Ubuntu and configure Cribl on it. But now we want to now we want to configure Splunk Universal Forwarder on it instead. So the command is that docker exec it Cribl with NGINX Ubuntu 1 bash. Okay, you know you're there because you get the root over there on the left-hand side, and you get a hashtag instead of the C:users, right, or your previous prompt. Right, so that's pretty simple there. Step 6 is going to be to download and verify the Universal Forwarder image. Now, these are pretty long commands, so I'm just going to paste them in here. And you can get them from the description of the video. But basically, you could also get them from the website by logging in and downloading. And once I get the right thing copied here, I'll paste it. I had the wrong thing there. But basically, this is a curl command, and we have curl installed on the Ubuntu from the previous exercise, so that works. And it downloads the Debian file that we use because we're in Ubuntu. We also want to get the MD5, which is basically the same command, but you add .md5 in 2 places. The name of the file that you're saving it as and the name of the file that you're retrieving from download.splunk.com. And then we're going to compare those, the MD5 of the downloaded Debian file with the MD5 and the text file we downloaded, the MD5 file, and we'll do that with this command here. OpenSSL MD5 Splunk Forwarder deb with the pipe diff -w to ignore the white space, and then the MD5 file that we downloaded in a dash. The dash means use what's in the pipeline, so it's going to get the output of OpenSSL MD5 command. Now you notice it didn't give us any output there, which means there was no difference. That's really what we want to see, is no output. I'll show you an example of just if we do the Splunk Forwarder Debian file itself. With the OpenSSL command, you can see that it has a 7A7F7A. And then if we look at the actual MD5 file we downloaded from Splunk.com as well, we see it also has an MD5. It says the hash should be 7A7F7A. So that's a match right there, right? That's another way of doing it without my chain together command above. And I'll just show you what happens if we just create a test.txt file and put hello in there, and we do the OpenSSL. If 2 ways to do it. We could just do cat and then send it to OpenSSL MD5 right here with the pipe, or I could just do OpenSSL MD5 and the file name. So I kind of skinned the cat multiple ways there. Show you both options, and the difference is one says standard in, one says the file name itself. So when you take that and you compare it to the Debian, you can see, or the deb file, right, we can see that that is not a good match. So the hello test file definitely doesn't match the file I downloaded from Splunk.com. And so we know those don't match. But here, if it does match, right, we would expect them to be the same. And this diff command right here with test.txt will show us, hey, there's a difference. See, it has output now. It says one file has hello in it and the other one has an MD5 sub. I'll show you one more time. If we go back to the original, we're comparing the download.deb with the diff of the MD5, and it's exactly the same. So there's no output. All right, so a lot of confusion there probably, but just copy those commands, run them, make sure you don't get any output. If you do get output, there's some man in the middle that is transforming that file you downloaded, and you want to re-download it, make sure those match. All right, but once they do match, you can proceed with installing the Universal Forwarder because you've got the right file downloaded without any modifications to it. All right, so step 7 is going to be depackage -I and the actual path through the file. So I'll use tab completion to figure it out here real quick, and then I'll copy that back into the notes. All right, when we run that, it'll take it a little bit to unpack it, install it. We want to watch this to see if there's any error messages or anything. Those could be clues to help us solve the error if there is one. In this case, I don't see any error messages. That's good. So now we're going to add our Cribl worker instances as TCP output, or basically outputs from Splunk UF to Cribl workers, right? So the way we do that is we modify a outputs.conf file. Sorry, my screen jumped around quite a bit there. I pressed the wrong button on the keyboard. Anyways, so once we get that file modified, we'll start the Universal Forwarder. And we're just going to use the echo command because we haven't installed Vim or Nano or any other editors like that. So we'll just echo a string into etc system local outputs.conf. So this opt Splunk Forwarder etc system local outputs.conf. We're going to echo, and then the first one will use the greater than sign, a single greater than sign, and the second one you'll use two greater than signs. So the first one's going to create the file if it doesn't exist, or it's going to wipe it out if it does exist, and then the second command is going to append it to it. So those are important. The other things to note is the syntax here. Definitely put quotes around the strings that we want to echo into the file. And then the file, again, we're echoing into is the Splunk Forwarder etc system local outputs.conf. Okay. In both cases, same file. So first one created the top string, second one creates the second string. And let's see here, once we do that, we can actually, give me a second, I'll get it straight here. We can actually start Splunk. That's what I want to do. All right, so we'll start Splunk, and we want to accept the license and answer yes. Okay, I just got a little ahead of myself there. And see, I did something wrong here because it gave me the license agreement. And I see what I did wrong is I didn't put 2 dashes there for accept the license. So I'll add another dash. And so now it's just asking me for my administrator name and password. We'll go ahead and do that. And I did check for errors up here. I noticed there's some warnings. Okay, so that was interesting. But no errors, I guess, just warnings. Let me paste the command there in my text file, and then we'll go ahead and create a admin username and password. Have to confirm the password. Does its thing. I want to go back and check one more time, go look at any errors. So there's a lot of output there. So there was an error calling exec-cve or exec-ve and creating the unit file. That's expected here on this Ubuntu instance, because it is just a bare minimum Ubuntu. It doesn't have systemctl installed on it or anything like that, so that unit file wouldn't even work. All right, so that's okay error in my case, but you may have a different error. Just check it out. If you do, leave a comment. I'll try and help you. One way we can make sure this is running was with psc-ef, and you can grep Splunk if you just want to see the Splunk processes. We'll see there's plenty of those running. All right, so that means we can move on to step 9, which is going to be verify that data is flowing in Cribl Stream. We'll do that using the live view of the in Splunk TCP source. I'll type that out real quick, and then we'll go look at it. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's one of my favorite features of Cribl is you can sit here and look at the live data as it's coming in, your sources. Okay, and There they are. Those are events coming from my Universal Forwarder, and I know they are because that host there, you can't see it very well. It's real small. I'll zoom in a little bit here in just a second. The source and the host name itself match what I have on my Ubuntu instance. So I'll zoom in a little bit to show you it's 23F48, and you can see it's opt Splunk Forwarder var log, Splunk D log, right? And if you look on my shell here, 23F48. Okay, so that's the host it came from. It's the name of the container itself. And that's about it. So if you gotten this far, you were able to get your data from your Universal Forwarder to Cribl stream with no problem. I mean, step 10 is going to be, profit basically. But go ahead and share the video too so others can profit, and hopefully they get this far as well. Hey, you know what? I really appreciate you taking time to watch till the end. If you like what you saw, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to our channel? Let us know in the comments how we're doing. I really appreciate it. See ya.